Welcome soulmates. We're going to be making an off-shoulder blouse as we see in the picture. So here we're using freehand and this is how we're going to do it using the freehand. I have -5, okay? -5, that is the tape is out of the paper by -5 inches. Then from there I'm going to mark my bust mesh length, my under bust length, my waist length, okay, the blouse length, which connects from the back, and then the basque for the blouse. I have about 6 inches from the blouse length, right? So I'm going to mark all of this across. Like I said, bust, under bust, right? Waist. And then we have the length of the blouse or blouse length. And then I have the basque. This is only for the front. Okay, so once we're done marking this, we're going to mark our bust span measurements. The bust span we're using here is 4 inches. So you measure yourself and know the bust span that you're going to be using. That is the CF line. So I'm marking from the center front, the bust span from the bust point down, and also we're going to connect it to the upper part, which serves as the neck area. So we are ruling this on a straight line, as you can see. So like I said, we're also going to mark this at the upper part. This part serves as the neckline for the blouse. This is an off-shoulder blouse using freehand method. Okay, you can do this directly on your fabric, but we choose to do it on paper before transferring to fabric. So at the bust point, we're going to mark the circumference. We're going to mark the bust circumference, but before then we want to tighten the under bust. So to tighten the under bust, on the side, right hand side, I'm marking 1.5 inch. At the other side, the smaller part, I'm marking 3/4 of an inch. Altogether I should be having 2 1/4, but it can be higher than this. Okay, you can have 1.5 on both sides, but I choose to do it this way. You can increase yours depending on the size of your bust. So the same thing is what I marked below. I just want to have it on a straight line. It's just going to be on a straight line. For the tightening, like I said, you can have 1.5 here and 1 inch the other way. You can have 2 inches the other way and 1 inch the other way. However you choose to do it, just make sure that it tightens your under bust very well. Okay, so we have that on a straight line. After which we're going to be connecting it to the bust points using our curve. You can also use your free hand to do it, but I think the curve is better. You can see the way the curve is placed. So you place yours the same way and connect to the bust point. In this case, you don't need to bother yourself if it's going to be pointy or not. The curve is going to help it not to be pointy. Just place it the way it is and you get everything right. Okay, we're also going to connect to the neckline. Now you might it might be obvious that the neckline is high. You can choose to reduce it. I think I later reduced the neckline, so instead of using -5, you can use -6. The higher you minus, the deeper the neckline, the neck depth. Okay, the higher you minus, the deeper the neck depth. So if you want it to be higher, you can do -4. -3 is out of the way, it's just going to be up on your neck. So -5, -6, 6.5 if you want it to drop down, right? So here I think I did 5.5 because I later trimmed off some half inch away from it because it's actually high. So the neckline I marked 1 inch on both sides. 1 inch on both sides. This will help it to tighten at the upper part very well. You can use a straight line to connect to the bust point, but I choose to use a very slight curve. As you can see, a very slight curve. Okay, so we are quite done with this. We are quite done with this. Lest I forget, you've not subscribed to this channel, please kindly do so. Here we're marking the bust circumference. The bust circumference, yes. So you mark your bust circumference. We've not added any sewing allowance to this. At the under bust, mark the under bust circumference divided by 4 plus the size of the dart that you used. Okay, so if your dart is 2 inches, you add it back. If your dart is 1.5, if it's 3 inches, just add it back. Yes, it's just give and take. If you give and you don't take, you have an issue, and if you take and you don't give, you equally have an issue. So mark the same thing on the waistline. Waist circumference divided by 4, you mark, add back the dart intake. The same thing at the waist. Okay, we've mentioned bust, under bust, waist, and length of blouse. Okay, wherever your blouse is going to stop, you're going to measure take the circumference and mark as well so that it connects to the right place. Now this circumference is just going to stop at the bust, the blouse length, right? It's going to stop at the blouse length, and then we'll be connecting to our basque to create the basque effect, right? So we'll be connecting it with a ruler. You can choose to use a curve to connect to the bust, to the blouse length. You can choose to use a straight line, whichever way you decide to do it. Okay, so we're going to mark our armhole depth. Remember we did -5. So when you do the same -5, you already know where your armhole is supposed to be. The armhole here is supposed to be 9 inches. So we already do -5 and it's going to remain 4 inches. So from this line to 4 inches, that is our armhole depth. Or we measured 2 inches from the bust points up, and we have our armhole depth. You cannot do your armhole depth where the bust point is. It's going to be too deep. Okay, so that is what we have here. Now we're going to measure our neck circumference. We're going to be using 5 inches, or you measure your bra strap to strap, which is usually about 10 inches divided by 2, because the paper is on fold, is assumed to be on fold. Or you can just close the darts and measure how much width you want for your neck width. Here I'm using 5 inches, right? 5 inches. So from 5 inches, I'm going to connect to the armhole line. The armhole line is measured at the same circumference with the bust circumference. I hope this video is not rushed and I know you're understanding what we're talking about. If you've not subscribed to this channel, please, I do not know what you're waiting for. Kindly subscribe to this channel, and you will be notified whenever we upload a new video every Tuesday and every Friday. Okay, Tuesdays and Fridays. So as you can see, I've connected to the armhole line, right? You can choose to curve it a bit, you can choose to leave it the way it is. It's all right. So for the neck front depth, you can choose to do a sweetheart neckline. I went down by 1 inch or 1.5 inch, however you desire it. You can give it any style of neckline of your choice. And that is what I'm going to be connecting to the first dart leg. Connect to the first dart leg. So once that is done, the next step is to connect to our basque line, right? Just making sure that the paper is neat, everything is well blended, and I hope you can see it clearly. So we're going to be connecting to the basque. You can see the way I placed my ruler. You can connect whichever way you want, either to give some space below or to connect it exactly to the point. And you can choose to close the dart legs so that you get the line exactly the way it's supposed to be, so that when cutting you know exactly where to cut following the mark that you've connected. Okay, but if you cut it the way it is open, after closing it you might need to blend in more because it's not going to align on the same line. Okay, so I will place my tape. You can choose to use a curve if you want it to be curved. You can choose to use a straight ruler. If you want it to be straight, you can choose to do it whichever way you desire to do it. It's just all your choice. It's just whatever it is that you desire. You can choose to use a very slight curve. It seems I'm explaining too much on this video. Don't mind me. I like to explain so much, and I hope you understand what I'm trying to explain. Okay, so I'll close it this way and then connect my lines together using a slight curve. Using a slight curve, you can choose to use a straight line to keep it as sharp as possible. Okay, so it's just however you desire to do it. And then I'll open it up and cut the papers as the line goes. Okay, so that will be all for now, and then we'll move over to the back and draft the back as well. So once we are done with the front, we're equally going to do the same thing at the back. Remember, we did -5 at the back. So from the -5, we're going to mark our armhole line for the back, and then mark the length of waist. That is the waistline for the back. You should take your measurements and know where the waistline for the back and front are not the same. And then at the waistline for the back, we'll go in by 0.75 so that we can take away some dart there so that the zipper at the back will not bulge. Okay, the zipper at the back is not supposed to bulge. This is one of the reasons why you wear a dress and the zipper area, the midpoint of the back, is poking out. It's not supposed to be like that. So for the back, we're using 5 inches, which is what we used for the front. Okay, the same thing we use for the front, that's what we're using at the back. And then at the chest line, which is the armhole line, we're going to be marking our bust circumference. Exactly the same thing we marked at the back, the bust circumference. And we're going to be connecting it to the neckline to serve as the armhole connection, right? So we take our waist circumference, divide by 4, and we add 1 inch to it for our dart intake of ½ inch on both sides of the dart line. At the lower part also, we mark our circumference for the hem of the blouse, and then we'll connect it together. Patiently watch this video and make sure you subscribe to this channel so that you have access to the videos, or notification to the videos, not access. Anybody can have access to this video. Notification whenever a new video is uploaded. So here we have the dart line for the back, Equally going to mark the same thing at the upper part, the chest line, so that we connect the lines together and take our darts on that line. Rule on a straight line. So we'll be having 0.5 on both sides. 0.5 on both sides of the dart line and connect to the chest line. You can see the way the dart is being connected. So you connect your run the same way. Now for our back neckline, we're going to tighten the back neckline so that it doesn't gape, it doesn't become loose at the upper part. We're taking 0.25 from both sides to tighten it. This is called back tightening for the neckline, okay, or contouring for the back neckline. So the back has not much problem. We're just okay. If you need to lower the neckline for the back, you can just lower it by 1 inch or half inch, depending on the style of neckline that you want for the back. I think I did 1 inch. Connect to the first dart leg. So once that is done, we are done for the back. All you have to do is label it so you don't get confused after cutting them into pieces. You should know which part belongs to which. So these are all the pieces for both the front and the back, and we're going to be cutting them on our fabric as soon as possible. This is how they are supposed to be matching up.